Thank you for appearing here today.
Yes, did that.
Is it CASA that is responsible for aeromedical safety for pilots in Australia?
Yes, Senator.
Can you tell me a bit more about the responsibility?
I might invite my colleague who looks after the AVMED area within CASA to provide you a bit more information about how we operate in that space.
Which area was that, Ms Spence?
It's the Stakeholder Engagement Division, but he's responsible for our aviation medicine team within CASA.
Thank you.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Marcella, the Executive Manager for the Stakeholder Engagement Division, and the aviation medicine sits within that portfolio.
And what are your responsibilities?
So I look after the area that runs our certification, medical certification area.
Certification of pilots?
Oh, for aviation medicine, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we run a certification process where anyone that wants to be granted a pilot licence needs to meet a medical standard, and depending on the level of licence they'd like to hold, there are different medical standards that they can apply for, and some of those range from being granted effectively by a GP all the way up to CASA doing robust assessments.
Okay. Second question, how do you pronounce your second name, Mr?
Marcella.
Marcella.
Yeah,
thank you. Did the airlines have to consult CASA at all before implementing vaccine mandates?
Senator, they would not have known. The vaccine mandates were a matter for health agencies, not us.
So, but CASA is responsible for aeromedical safety, and this is mandating, the airlines were mandating a medical procedure. Mandating?
No, Senator, our policy when it comes to vaccination from an aviation safety perspective is fairly straightforward. We have a 24-hour stand-down period where we request that crews don't operate for 24 hours, and that accounts for any adverse reactions that might happen on any vaccination. And beyond that, our requirement is that if there are effects being experienced, that pilots declare that either to us or to their medical examiner and stand down from duties. So it's a pretty standard process we have for vaccinations.
So you'd expect the effects to be over within 24 hours?
The immediate effects. So our concern is around incapacitation. So is there a risk of sudden incapacitation for a pilot? And the medical evidence suggests that takes place in the first 24 hours following.
Where did the evidence come from?
Senator, that's a globally accepted standard that all
So you didn't check
regulators...
where the evidence came from, you just accepted the globally accepted...
Senator, and as Mr Marcella said, this is for all vaccinations, and that is a long-standing practice that has been in place around that 24 hours. So there was no... What we're talking about is our general processes.
Okay, so there's nothing exceptional about the way COVID injections are treated?
No, Senator.
Okay, thank you. So is CASA aware that the COVID injections only hold provisional approval?
Senator, we take the advice from the health authorities that have approved those vaccinations for use in Australia, and as far as we're concerned, we don't question that. We don't second guess that. That's a.
No, I wasn't asking that question, Mr. Marcella. I was asking if you're aware that the COVID injections only have provisional approval, not approval.
We are aware that the vaccines are approved for use in Australia, and that's what matters to us.
Provisionally approved. You're not aware that they were provisionally approved?
Look, I am aware that they are provisionally approved.
Okay, thank you. Are you aware that the provisional approval means the health regulators only have preliminary data on the medication and are awaiting on the full suite of data from pharmaceutical companies from further monitoring, which could include risks and harms not identified in the preliminary data? Are you aware of that?
No, Senator, as I said, from our perspective, they have been approved by health authorities for use in Australia. That's the extent of our concern.
Given what I just said and the uncertainty there, is there a possibility that vaccine mandates inject a level of risk onto pilots flying our planes? Is there a level of uncertainty introduced?
Senator, we're following, as Mr Marcella said, we're following the medical advice, and we have not got any reason to have concerns around the impact of COVID vaccinations in Australia.
So who gave you the medical advice?
We're following the announced medical advice that comes from the...
So who gave you that announced medical advice?
Senator, we're following the advice that's provided to across the country. We hear what the CMOs are saying.
Chief Medical Officer, AHPRA, Health, the Federal Secretary.
We're following
the
the published advice.
Who published it?
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry, I don't know who's...
You didn't check?
Senator, we're following the advice that's out there, and I think there's a level of we're treating the COVID vaccinations the same way we do with every other vaccination in the country.
Okay, thank you for acknowledging that. Does CASA collect reports of COVID-19 vaccine effects, side effects and adverse events in and class 1 to 3 medical certificate holders, and how is this data collected?
So, Senator, medical certificate holders are required to see their medical examiners on a regular basis. We do expect them to disclose effects if they've had them. We have nothing in any of the data that we hold that indicates any adverse effects from COVID vaccination.
Okay. You have nothing in the data, but
Nothing.
you don't go and specifically collect it.
Yes, we do. It is required to be provided to us, but nothing has been provided to us.
Who do you require to provide it?
The pilots.
The pilots, okay. Do you believe that there may be a perverse incentive for a pilot to not report if they have suffered an adverse event? If they report an event, they are putting their financial livelihood at risk?
No, Senator.
You don't?
No, Senator.
Okay. How does CASA detect pilots who may have a medical problem if they have not self-reported it to CASA?
Can you repeat the question, sorry, Senator?
How does CASA detect pilots who may have a medical problem if they have not self-reported it to CASA?
So, Senator, as I said earlier, medical certificate holders are required to see an examiner on a frequent basis. It depends on their age, depends on the class of medical. So, in order to hold a medical certificate for most classes of medicals, you need to see a medical examiner on a frequent basis. So, other than self-declaration, that's the other control that we have in our medical system.
I've got a few.
Three agencies.
Are you,
No,
are you aware, thanks for the endorsement, that means a lot. Are you aware that the COVID injections were not fully tested, barely partially tested? Are you aware? Yes or no?
Senator, it's not a matter for us. We are an aviation safety agency.
Exactly.
And we take the advice when it comes to vaccination from the authorities that are charged with making those decisions.
Are you aware, now I haven't checked this myself, but I'm told by a lawyer in America that 1,000 Southwest airline pilots cannot pass their medical after being injected? That's a hell of a lot of pilots in America just with one airline.
Senator, we haven't heard that data
Okay.
being provided to us.
Are you aware that the Pfizer trials were sloppy, unscientific and shut down early, apparently due to deaths? Are you aware?
Senator, I don't think there's anything else that we can really add to the
think
line of
Senator-
questioning.
Sorry, Ms. Spence, Senator Robertson, much as I really enjoy working with you, but I really think that the officers cannot answer your line of questioning here.
No, that's become clear.
And I would please urge Senator Roberts that we are so tight for time. If there are any more, would you put them on notice?
I'll hand back.
Thank you.
Chair, I've just got one